The little white light on the Starlink unit means it's on, and we're getting, I want to say 125. Hi, if you've never heard of me before, my name's Alex and I'm a YouTuber cross-networking engineer, and that is the perfect recipe for somebody to make a video on Starlink. I have literally just paid my second bill, so I've had this for 2 months now, and this is my exact thoughts on Starlink. In. Go on then. Okay, so before this video starts, I just need to make sure that me on this side of the camera and you on that side of the camera are on the same page. This is kind of a follow-up video to my previous Starlink video that I made about a month ago when it arrived, which was me pretty much giving you my thoughts on one day of the service. So what I want to try to do in this video is give you my honest thoughts on the service that I've had for the last 2 months. I've literally just paid my second bill. I am going to be a little bit techie in this video, but please know I am trying my hardest to be understandable to the large majority of people. So if there is some tech freaks that are picking up on me skipping over details, I apologize for that. And I've also made a little bit of a chart which we'll go through later, and that's going to discuss whether you need Starlink or not. But first, let's just go and nerd out over this absolutely insane revolutionary tech. Okay, so my plan was to get in this car and blow everybody away with a speed test. I'm going to try and do that, but this Starlink service has been really flaky. Okay, it's working now. We are literally pulling 300 meg. What? I'm kind of not believing my eyes here. We've just got a maximum of 335 megabits a second, which is insane. And we also got 32 megabits up. Now, let me stress, it is raining. And my God, look where I am, right? I am in the middle of absolutely nowhere, pulling 335 meg via that dish. If that isn't insane and that doesn't blow a tech person away, I literally don't know what will. 100, 102, almost 200 meg. Middle of nowhere. That is insane, man. Now, I know that there'll be people that'll argue the point. Alex, you're sat in a Land Rover. It has a plug socket in the back. How are normal people going to be able to power their Starlink when they're in the middle of nowhere? Well, you could just use a device like this. It basically is a battery with a plug in it. The only problem is the Starlink service uses so much power. And it was my friend that Ross tipped me off on this. I think it uses about 80 watts to power that dish, which is a lot of power. But for what it is, for me to be able to drive in the middle of anywhere and have that sort of internet access, there is no denying that that is insane. You've got man out here in the pissing wet Starlink ting. Now, when I got this a month ago, I actually tested it to see if it would work on a moving vehicle. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. But I'll tell you what does work on a moving vehicle: 4G. Let me just restart this test and get out of where I am now. And as you can see, I'm literally going down this hill. Oh my God. And I got 45 meg. Editor Jed, please don't zoom into my face. Oh my God. Okay, so I've managed to get all of this stuff set out on the office table because basically I want to go through each individual piece that you receive in the Starlink kit. First off, we'll start with the dish itself. It's about 45 centimeters big, like it's a big ass plate. We've got thousands of tiny little antennas, and I'll get back to that a little bit later. Now, a few people were asking me this last time. The cable does not come out of here. However, I have noted that you can extend this. This, I know it's quite thick. It is just normal Cat 6 cable, so you can put a coupler on here and just basically extend it. Next up, we've got the Poe Injector. Now, this is not just your standard Poe Injector. I wouldn't go plugging in your access points or CCTV cameras to this because they will go bang. As you can see here, we have a total max output of 180 watts, which is basically unheard of for any other Poe device. All this tiny little device is basically a network hub, so you get one in and one out, and it's also an AC wireless access point, so you can connect to Wi-Fi. Because all of the routing functionality is basically done inside of the dish. So that's all the equipment that you would get that sits on the ground. What about all the stuff up there in space that you can't see, or the invisible stuff? Well, currently, as I'm recording this video, there's 1,000 Starlink satellites up there roaming around space. And if you go to this website that I'll put in the description and type in Starlink, you will be displayed with all of the current Starlink satellites that are currently in the Earth's atmosphere. Really, really cool. Now, what this will do, if I zoom in on the UK here, it will give you an indication as to why sometimes we can do speed tests and see 350 meg, sometimes it's 60 meg, and then the next time it's 0. What's that inconsistency about? Well, check out how fast these satellites are moving over the UK. You get about 5 or 6 seconds, and then it is literally one side to the other, gone. Now, those Starlink satellites up there are moving at a speed of 8 kilometers per second, which is absolutely unfathomable. And I think Starlink have got approval to put a further 12,000 satellites up there in orbit, which are gonna live at 3 different heights. However, before we go ahead and do that, I need to thank today's video sponsor, which is Skillshare. Now, as a kid, I basically hated learning new things. I hated being in school, being forced to learn things that I didn't really care or were interested about, but that isn't what Skillshare is all about. They've got thousands of classes on there. Let's say you buy a new camera. There will be somebody that's done a course on that specific camera. Let's say you want to learn how to do time lapses on your GoPro. You know, I'm just going to search it in now. GoPro, click enter. Yeah, look, literally, there's so many courses that are just about GoPros. Like, it's unbelievable, and you can sort it by beginner, intermediate, or advanced if you just want to, you know, dip your feet in a little bit. No way, have they actually got a class on here by John Olson. This guy is an insane filmmaker. So if that does sound interesting to you and you want to get a little piece of it, you can use my link in the description. That will give you 30% off an annual premium membership. And if you've already taken advantage of one of my Skillshare offers before, doesn't matter. You can still take advantage of this one by clicking that link in the description. So what are you waiting for, guys? Learn something new today and do it on Skillshare. Okay, so let's try and explain this Starlink thing, what it's good at and what it's not so good at, and why you could maybe need this and why you should possibly avoid it. I've got a chart that we're going to go through that will literally say yes or no whether you will benefit from Starlink. But first, internet speeds. So in a nutshell, there's 2 ways you measure your broadband speed. You've got the actual rate of the connection, which is measured in megabytes per second or megabits per second, usually in upload and download. So let's say theoretically you've got 5 megabits per second coming into your place. And then one of your friends does a speed test and he says, oh, my result is 100 megabits per second. So the width of this 5 megabit pipe is, let's just say for argument's sake, this big, and the 100 megabit pipe is this big, which means we can fit lots of 4K streams inside of this big connection. And we can't even get one 4K stream inside of here. We're gonna have to definitely go down to 720. Now, the other way we measure our speed is in something called latency. And this is measured in milliseconds, ms. So let's bring over our previous connection example and we'll say that our connection with 5 megabits per second has a latency of 10 milliseconds, whereas our connection with 100 megabits per second has a latency of 50 milliseconds. Now, unlike the download and upload, which means the bigger the number, the bigger the pipe, with this, the lower the number, the better, because basically what we're describing is how long it takes you to send a packet from your connection out to the server where you're going and back again. So for general day-to-day browsing, just, I don't know, going on Amazon, searching the web, looking at the news, you will have a better online experience with the 5 megabit connection, basically because it has a better ping. It's more responsive. So when you click on the website, it will load quicker because websites don't need much bandwidth. Now, as you saw earlier, we got a download speed in the car of 300 megabits per second. And our latency on that connection was about 44 milliseconds. So that basically means it's taking 44 milliseconds for this dish to send something up to a satellite and then back down to the ground station that that satellite is connected to reach the internet. So this chart here shows Starlink at 150 meg with a 45 milliseconds latency and a fiber to the home connection with 50 meg and a 10 milliseconds latency. If we're going to want to run multiple 4K streams, then we're going to want a Starlink beta kit, because multiple 4K streams is going to rely on how thick your pipe is to the internet, measured in megabits per second. Now let's just flip it on its head and say we're not streaming anymore, we're gaming. Now gaming doesn't need a huge pipe like 4K video streaming does. Gaming needs a good latency, right? So if we're gonna game, we're gonna wanna do that on fiber to the home. Now I can go ahead and fill out this chart a little bit more on your screen now, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what this Starlink kit can do and what the difference is between the actual speed of the connection and the latency of the connection. Okay, so the last sort of 2 minutes of this video has been super unscientific, but what it has done is given you an idea of what this Starlink service is like compared to normal current broadband services that are in the area, which now raises the question, if you can get fiber to the home, do you need Starlink? And the answer really, at the moment in time, is no. The latency matters more than you think, just for general web browsing. Now this isn't me saying the latency is bad with Starlink at all. As I've said at the start of this video, this is still a beta service, and as they stick more of those satellites up there in the air, it's only going to improve. But let me tell you this, its bottleneck is physics. Just remember that everything you do connected to Starlink has to go all the way up there to a satellite and then all the way back down again to the internet. You can feel it. It's nice to see the actual weather picking up here in the UK again. I've got the Starlink set up in the garden, and before I go ahead and close out on this video, I do just want to give you a little bit of a taster, a visual taster of what it's actually like to generally web browse on Starlink. So as you can see, I'm on Google right here. I'm just going to type in BBC and click return, and this is the sort of responsiveness you can expect. It is really, really quite good for what it is. I'm clicking on pages here, and they are loading pretty much before I have time to read anything, and these are random pages. I've got a bit of lag there, but you can see here when I get really low down that you start to get a little bit of sluggishness, but again, it's nothing to complain about. You wouldn't see that on a fiber connection, but on here it's definitely there. But for somebody going from having absolutely nothing to this is game changing, no matter what anybody says, whether it's just somebody at home trying to get online, or it's even medical people out in the middle of absolutely nowhere trying to get hold of vital resources. It's insane tech, and I don't care what anybody says otherwise. It's really, really cool. It's just hella expensive, and I hope you guys appreciate me paying for it to bring you these videos, because it's literally the only reason I'm doing it. But with that being said, guys, my name's been Alex, and yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll see you in the next one. Peace.